Well, US President-elect Donald Trump has nominated Scott Bessent as the next Treasury Secretary to implement his campaign promises, including tax cuts and new import tariffs. Trump said Bessent will address the imbalances in foreign trade and focus on economic growth. Bessent is a hedge fund manager who advocates deficit reduction. In recent times, he's called for tax reform and deregulation to encourage growth. Earlier, I spoke with Daniel Lacalle, chief economist at Tressis, a private bank in Madrid. Given that Donald Trump promised an American-first economic policy with tariffs a central part of that, I asked him if Scott Bessent will execute this vision.
Yes, I think so. I think that Mr. Bessent has been very vocal in the past, particularly 4 years, about the importance of using tariffs as a way of balancing out the significant differences in trade between most of the economies in the United States. He has been very vocal about how, particularly with China, there are tremendous trade barriers imposed by the Chinese government. And obviously, the trade surplus that China enjoys with the United States is incredibly large. And obviously, the United States doesn't have those regulatory and legal barriers. And so what they are going to likely impose are further tariffs on top of the ones that existed with the Biden administration.
Now, I'd just like to put some of the arguments against tariffs to you and get your opinion that they will ultimately harm US consumers. It's argued that most of the economic burden of tariffs will be borne by them, as those importing goods would pass the cost on to consumers. Some economists have also warned that more tariffs from the US will risk a spike in domestic inflation. What's your take?
Well, tariffs are not inflationary and have never been. There is no evidence in history that tariffs have generated inflation. Inflation is the destruction of the purchasing power of the currency. And obviously, that is not an inflationary generating element. Tariffs may be borne by the domestic consumer when the product is 100% produced abroad and the demand is inelastic. But 2016 to 2021, and obviously the 2001 to 2024 period that we have seen, in which the United States has always counterbalanced trade barriers from other countries with tariffs, be it with the Bush or with the Obama, Trump or Biden administration. What we have seen is that the impact on inflation on those particular goods is not particularly high. It may happen in some goods, in individual goods, but not create an inflationary spike. It hasn't happened in the past. It does not mean more units of currency issued in the economy. It is actually a higher level of demand for US dollars. So that's...
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to get through enough questions in the time we have. We're talking about impacts here. What impacts could tariffs have on the world economy as a whole? Could we expect another trade war?
Yes, I think that obviously I am not a defender of tariffs. Tariffs generally are negative for world trade. They are always a very dangerous weapon to counterbalance other people's protectionist measures, because what they tend to do is to bring more protectionist measures. So what we're seeing exactly is what you just mentioned, is that the trade war that was initiated in 2008 is accelerating. It has accelerated in 2022, 23, and it will likely accelerate as well. So in general, weaker trade growth and weaker economic growth globally.
So if I understand you correctly, you're arguing that tariffs might accelerate protectionist policies around the world?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, usually when what tends to happen is that even though many of these tariffs are implemented because they're trying to offset something that is perceived as unfair within the United States, what ends up happening is that the other economy also perceives it and decides to put further tariffs. I always say that protectionism leads to further protectionism in other economies, and that's exactly what we have been seeing since 2001 on a very, very large scale, actually.
That was Daniel Lacalle, Chief Economist at Tressis, a private bank in Madrid. Thank you very much for your time, Daniel. Appreciate it.
Thank you.